All right. I am starting a little bit early because this morning I'm doing this live on two different platforms. So I'm just setting up a bit and opening the room. Good morning to everyone who is coming on. All right. So this is my first time doing both Instagram Live and LinkedIn Live at the same time. And all right, so I see people popping on. Hello, hello. If you can just write in the comments where you are tuning in from, I would love to know. So I see it popping up on Instagram that I am live. So feel free to hit the share button, invite other people to join us. We've got a couple minutes before we officially get started, but I am definitely happy to see you all with me this morning. I know I have an international audience, so some of you are joining from other places and it's not morning, but I appreciate you coming on to spend this time with me today. I see Danielle from Atlanta on LinkedIn. Hey, Danielle, how are you? All right. So, one more minute and we will get going. But I'm excited to jump back into this series. So at the end of last year, I did a Black Women in Leadership series and I went back through, I got a ton of messages, lots of questions that I really wanted to pack into this series. And it was in conversations with one of my dear friends, someone who I have mentored previously in the past and just watched her grow on her career, that really sparked this conversation around executive presence. What is it really and why do you need it? You know, there's a lot of talk around what executive presence is and isn't, and today is going to be a really rich conversation. I can guarantee you that. So it is exactly 7 o'clock. I plan to start on time. And in the words of just about every preacher I know, I will not be before you long because I do have kids to get ready for school and a meeting this morning. But I'm just excited again to be here. Happy New Year to each of you. I'm Carlisha Williams Bradley. I'm the founder and CEO of Amplify for Women. I'm a high performance women's leadership coach, and my work has impacted over 9,000 women in 23 countries. I really got into this path of women's leadership development through my own journey and story, which I'll unpack a bit of that for you later. But this work for me, these conversations that we're having, the series, even the growth of Amplify for Women, it came from a place of wanting to amplify the voices of women, to allow for us to experience the fullness of our leadership potential, but also to transform organizations, communities, and nations. So, as we jump into this today, I'm coming into this conversation with over a decade of executive leadership experience. I have ran startups, nonprofit organizations. I have overseen public education instruction in the state of Oklahoma through serving on the State Board of Education, held public offices, been a entrepreneur, a founder, all of the in between. So a lot of my perspective is built from this space of having touched in various areas, but really wanting to go deeper on the one thing that really matters. All right. So we are jumping in. I see more people joining. Hey, Tanisha, I'm glad to see you here. Hi, Kendra. Hi, Destiny. If you want to just drop in the chat where you are joining from. I mentioned earlier that I have an international audience, so I'd love to know where you all are tuning in from this morning or this afternoon for you. So, jumping right into our topic today on what executive presence really is, when I was talking about this session, it is really one for whether you're a seasoned professional and you're saying, I'm ready to level up this year. I'm ready to play bigger, to increase my influence and my presence. Or you're an aspiring leader. You're like, I want to grow in my career, a founder who's launching your business. You need to find that special ingredient to stand out in a competitive landscape. This is the series for you. So I mentioned I'd share with you a bit of my backstory. I entered into executive leadership at a very young age. I was in my early 20s and got promoted very quickly in my career. But I realized that a lot of the skill sets that allowed for me to get that position, I was the hard worker. I would work 10 times as hard. I'd stay late. I'd come early. I was a person that you could always count on. All of these aspects of what got me to the C suite, right? I quickly realized, y'all, that that was not going to be what would keep me there. I see Cortland in Denver, Stacia in Tulsa, Tanisha in Oklahoma City. Thank you, ladies, for joining this morning. So I realized that what got me to the C-suite, it was not going to be what kept me there. I really found that these skill sets, which a lot of people call soft skills, but I'm going to get into that later about why they are foundational, essential skills, were necessary to navigate this new space of executive leadership. Many of us, especially many women of color, we have worked hard. We've proven ourselves. We have our heads down. We're doing what needs to be done. We're not out there shouting from the rooftops about our accomplishments because you're too busy doing the work. And you make it to these higher level positions. And a lot of conversation has happened around the glass cliff. Like, what happens when you get here? Am I set up to really succeed? Do I have the skills to navigate this landscape? And so for me, when I got into executive leadership, I experienced a huge disconnect. I was the individual contributor previously, I was killing it. And I felt like those same skills transferred into executive leadership. But newsflash, it didn't. It did not. I was experiencing a disconnect with the teams that I was leading. I had a lot of frustration. Like, my own inner critic was eating me up inside. I was constantly thinking through all of the little details. If you have ever been in that space where you've been frustrated, felt like there was a disconnect, or even had your inner critic, that voice inside of your head that's telling you, are you doing this right? If you're questioning that, just hit a that's me in the chat. If you have ever experienced that, just this gap in between who you knew you could be, but that frustration of sitting in the messy middle, you're realizing, like, I thought I had the skills that I needed to jump into this role, but there was a missing element and ingredient to get me to the next level, right? And so as I sat in this space, and I'm so grateful for the mentorship, guidance, and leadership. I talk about this often, but if you are someone who is new to executive leadership, get in community, find mentors, coaches. Think about who you're listening to, the information that you're feeding yourself. It took me from a space of frustration and trying to figure it out on my own to truly understanding what it meant to live and lead in my own lane of executive presence and leadership. So, for those of you that are just joining, welcome in. I'm so happy to see you. This is my first time streaming on both LinkedIn and Instagram at the same time. So glad for the new features. And we are talking about executive presence, what it really is, and why you need it. I just shared a bit of my backstory, as I started my journey as an executive leader, the frustration of being in that messy space of trying to figure out and realize that what got me to the C-suite was not going to be what made me successful in this role. And we are just now about to dig into what executive presence really is. Now, a lot of times when we enter this conversation about executive presence, there is a thought that this conversation is going to go into a space of the way that you dress, the way that you present yourself. Well, I want to tell you right now that this is not a conversation of respectability politics. If that is what you were expecting, you might want to click out of the live because that's not where we're going. And for those of you unfamiliar with what respectability politics is, that is when a marginalized group chooses to disassociate or hide a piece of their cultural identity to fit in with the viewpoints, the perspectives, or the ideals of the majority. So this is not a conversation about respectability politics. Again, if that's what you were looking for, click off. I am a coach who does predominantly support leaders of color, women of color. And the space that we're sitting in, ladies, is authenticity. Okay. So when we think about executive presence, what it really is, it's these four C's that I've carried with me on my journey that really changed the game for me in terms of sitting in that space of frustration and entering into executive leadership and thinking that it was going to be my head down, my 10 times work is hard ethic that was going to get me to the next level. It was actually these four C's of executive presence that unlocked the door to catapult my career. All right, so get ready, get your pens out, whatever you're about to take notes on to capture these gems. So, the first C is confidence. Confidence. I know one that you're like, okay, Carlisha, yeah, we got that. Maybe you have it, or maybe you're struggling to get it, but it's really that belief in yourself. When you think about leaders who have executive presence, it's the confidence in who they are. They believe, they show up in the room like, I belong in this room. I have a seat at this table. There is something that draws you in because of the confidence that they bring in their spaces and in their presence. Number two is communication. This one is a really big one. I probably should have saved this one for the end because it is a big one. It is your ability to articulate your value and your vision. It is your ability to articulate your value and your vision. Communication is essential for people to be able to bet on you, for individuals to be able to follow you, for you to elevate to the next level in your career. Are you able to communicate your value and your vision? This is a piece of the I work with my head down. I'm always getting things done. I'm knocking it out. I'm not doing it for praise. Those type of leaders. I I've been there. I've been in that seat. And I want to tell you that leading in that way, while it is great, it reaches some results. It is not going to be the type of drive that gets you to the next level in your career. Because if you are not able to articulate and lift up the value that you're bringing to your company, the ways in which your product or your business or organization is transforming the lives of your consumers or clients, if you cannot articulate the value, it's almost like it didn't happen. You have to be the spokesperson for yourself and for you to have executive presence for people to draw in and to follow you. They need to know the vision and you have to be able to articulate that to paint a picture. So, number three, so we've talked about the first two C's: confidence, communication. The third C is connection. When I think about influential executive leaders and the ways in which their presence draws you in, it is connection. Yes, it is so true. Thanks for sharing that, mathematics tutoring. It is like, it is this ability to communicate the value. And secondly, that brings us into this space of connection. Connection is the ability for people to want to follow you. You know how sometimes when you hear a speaker come on stage or you're watching an interview, and even when we get these tiny glimpses of Beyonce's life, and I do mean tiny, we feel like, oh, she gave us a piece. We got to see her in blue on stage or in this conversation or in these like 3-minute highlights in a video. I feel connected to her. And connection also ties into communication. These all relate to one another. The ability to storytell, to share pieces of who you are. This is what draws people in to your executive presence. Confidence, communication, connection. Are you ready for the last C? All right. So the last C is the most important C. I was going to end with communication, but honestly, this is the most important C. This is character. Character. You didn't hear anything in any of my C's about how you dress, how you talk. It is confidence, communication, connection, and character. Character is what you value, but more importantly, how are those values showing up in your life? When you think of individuals who have executive presence, their values are very clear. I don't have to ask myself what they stand for or what they believe, right? They walk into the room, the way that they speak, the way that they're able to root their answers in a deeper why, they are deeply connected to their values. Executive presence is so much bigger than what you have on, because I have seen individuals with more executive presence in tennis shoes, jeans, and a t-shirt than individuals in a three-piece suit, right? I told you, we are not, this ain't about respectability politics. No, this is about the key ingredients and essentials if you want to stand out. If you're ready to take your dreams, business, and brand to the next level, you have to possess the ability to walk into the room with confidence, to communicate with clarity, to share your value, and to know how to articulate your worth and vision, to connect with people. It doesn't mean that you're over here pouring out your whole life story, but how do you leave pieces of who you are for people to be able to connect? And lastly, to show up and to show your character. What do you value? You know, as I sat back, and a lot of the deep work that I've done in one on one coaching sessions with my clients has been around value identification, articulation. How does this show up in your life? But more importantly, a lot of the work that I do is in compelling values based communication. So, how does that transfer into you being a powerful public speaker and leader in the ability to articulate these values? And I decided as I went into this series that we're starting off the year and I wanted to give just a gift to my audience. I've put together some resources, and it's a very useful template that allows for you to assess your values and to align with what that looks like to walk it out in your life. Now, a lot of people, when they give you these downloads, is generally like a PDF. And as much as I love the beautiful branding and the pictures, I cannot type into that PDF. I'm not probably about to print it and write in it. I'm an electronic girl. So I created a simple Google Doc. It is simple. You can begin to edit in it yourself. It's going to ask you to make a copy. But if you are interested in getting this tool, just type values in this live stream, and thanks to automation, it'll end up in your inbox. So if you are interested in this resource that allows for you and supports you in unpacking your values to apply to these principles that I'm talking about today, and actually this resource will be essential to you for the upcoming, there's 8 more lives. So this is a 9-part series. It will be essential for you to be able to access the information and tools that are ready for you for these next phase of our videos. Just type values into the comments and we will get this resource over to you to get started on your value identification journey and in elevating your executive presence. So again, it was important to me that the tool was easy to use, plug and play. It is yours. Use it as you see fit, and know that we're going to touch on these concepts in this series. So, as we close out today, because I told you I was not going to be before you long, I will keep these lives at about, 20 minutes or less. Okay. As I told you guys, executive presence is not just about what other people think. It's not about, how you dress or the way in which you speak. It is about your confidence, your communication, your connection, and your character. Because what we know is what got you to these seats, what got you to found the organization and to begin to lead at a higher level, because you were working 10 times as hard. You were always the person who was dependable. It won't be what gets you to the next level. You have to be able to articulate your values, articulate your worth, to connect with people and to engage with confidence. And your first step on that journey is to identify these values and to figure out how you are walking it out in your life. So I am doing, as I told you, a 9-part series. You can join me tomorrow morning, same time, same place. I can't wait to see you there. If you are interested in learning more about Amplify for Women or booking a call with me to talk more about the services that we provide, please feel free to visit the link in my bio. I'd love to schedule a call to talk more. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Have a great day.